Earlier, we touched upon the possibility that governments are engaged in a massive cover-up. Now, the footage we're about to show was supplied to us by an aerospace communications consultant who was monitoring NASA transmissions. As far as we know, this is the only tape that exists. What you'll hear is a conversation which takes place between two experienced astronauts, Mark Lee and Stephen Smith, shortly after they returned to the shuttle's airlock from a spacewalk in which they undertook repairs to the Hubble telescope. It took place on February the 18th this year. Now, what you see here is NASA's control at Houston. The communications console is in the top left-hand part of the picture. You'll hear the conversation the astronauts are having, and then you'll see an official get up over on the left here suddenly and go to the console, shortly after which the transmission is terminated. Here's the conversation.
What? I just thought of it in my imagination. Yeah, I saw it too, so it's not. There's two of them. There's another one. What are they? Let me show the lights flickering in here. That one for a second, but I had that one for the whole time. Yeah, I was looking at that one,
Right, Stanton Friedman, what did you make of that? Was it significant?
Well, I presume the astronauts would have been well aware if there was any other body in space near them doing such a maneuver, you know, being outside, working on the Hubble, where you have to be careful. So I don't think we're talking about local flights of any airline, so to speak. What it was, I don't know. The usual explanation for strange stuff near the shuttle is pieces of ice that come loose when it rotates, other things related to the shuttle itself. On the other hand, I would have to expect that these guys would be extraordinarily experienced at that. They've been outside, they've seen stuff go off it. I don't know what to make of it. I've heard about this, but I hadn't heard it before. Well, let's see. I'm fascinated.
Yeah, Frank Close.
Well, could I come in on this one? I think I might be able to actually solve a mystery live on air. I have been informed by James Oberg, who I'm sure you know, that what's actually happening here, as we've actually heard, the astronauts were in the airlock at the time. Now, they were basically dozing, then they noticed some LEDs on a piece of diagnostic hardware that they'd brought in with them and started musing about the lights on that box. They were inside the airlock. Even the UFO webpage makes this clear, and there's only a 3-inch window with a view of the payload bay. It's impossible for them to have seen anything in outer space. Now, we can check this. We don't need to argue about it. Explanation.
I don't know.
This, of course, is one of a number of very interesting tapes that have come forward from NASA. And I've heard it said on occasion that some of these objects, and of course there are some films of this, are ice crystals falling off the shuttle. Well, some of these films, and I don't know whether we have them, but you know, they're intriguing viewing, show objects which move and then stop and then change direction. These are things, I think, clearly under some sort of intelligent control. Well, hopefully we're going to actually have Captain Edgar Mitchell on a video link. Am I right on that?
Yes, yes.
He actually is on record, and he's, as you know, very much a pro-UFO person. He is on record as saying that all of the reports, alleged reports from astronauts are, we're after the watershed, bullshit.
Well, I think there are some...
Yeah, but that's a nice word to use to go on to the next item. I'm not going to use it myself, but we asked NASA to supply us, incidentally, with the original stock footage of the airlock incident on mission STS-82, I think it was called. They said they were unable to do so. They also denied there was any incident on that mission involving strange lights, and said the conversation in the airlock related to a faulty light on a console inside the shuttle, which ties up with what you said. But also the conspiracy and cover-up theory has been used by the UFO lobby for the last 50 years to explain the lack of solid physical evidence. Are governments behaving unreasonably, or is the truth less fanciful and they're simply trying to protect their own military secrets? Could these be the UFOs that make people believe we've been visited by aliens? None of these are familiar sights in our skies, but they are all man-made. All were once top-secret military aircraft. And it comes as no surprise that many UFO sightings come near military bases, where aircraft like these were developed. So was that the case at Rendlesham Forest in Norfolk?
Stop the car. Look at that. Do you see that in the woods?
Senior defense figures are convinced something did happen in that isolated wood. A former chief of the defense staff, Lord Hill Norton, is one of them.
One can't help feeling that something is being concealed. Either the Americans and indeed the deputy base commander were hallucinating, or they believed that something had landed there and they had taken photographs and records of it. And in either event, it must be of interest to the defense of the United Kingdom.
Was the strange triangular craft spotted by so many US airmen really a top-secret new aircraft whose existence was known to only a few? Or was it a UFO? And has the British government been involved in a cover-up at the highest level?
The ministry have doggedly denied that anything untoward occurred there, and I simply don't believe it. Therefore, somebody, I don't know who it is sitting on information which by now should be public.
In the USA, many sightings have come in or around this vast top-secret complex. Known as Area 51, it is a known proving ground for new aircraft at the cutting edge of technology. It is patrolled day and night, and warning signs are everywhere. Intruders risk being shot. What is the American government trying to hide?
We acquired this unknown object, aircraft some type, one, and appears to be going outbound real slow. There's hardly any range velocity.
This remarkable footage of a craft was allegedly filmed by United States Air Force cameras inside Area 51. It was smuggled out and has undergone rigorous examination, but still baffles the experts. The craft is doing things no conventional aeroplane is capable of.
I'm familiar with footage taken by these kinds of cameras at this test range, and it does look extremely authentic, so I think a fake or a hoax is unlikely. What's interesting is the reaction of the observers you can hear in the background here.
Where'd it come from? Way down. On this unknown aircraft. T1 control doesn't know what type of aircraft it is either.
These people are used to seeing hundreds of airplanes cross this test range every day. They know all about military jets, yet what they're seeing clearly baffles them. And when you look at some of the data that's scrolling in the screen, you can tell, for instance, it's hopping about all over the place. It's staying stationary. It then moves off very fast. It's doing things that no normal aeroplane would do. So it's pretty baffling. It is, in the strictest sense of the word, an unidentified flying object.
Is this a UFO or a new jet? Or is it a man-made object based on technology made from a captured spacecraft? Some people believe so.
I have talked with high-level people whose duties, in the course of their duties, had the occasion to examine either material, reports, or bodies, or have knowledge thereof, that confirms the presence of ET on our planet and spacecraft and such technology as they brought with them. It would appear from my investigations and the investigations of others that since the days of Eisenhower and John F. Kennedy, that high-level peoples in the U.S. government, and perhaps other governments, have been systematically excluded from detailed knowledge of this because they had no need to know.
Well, that's an extraordinary statement from Ed Mitchell, and one that we can follow up with him right now as he joins us, hopefully via satellite from Fort Lauderdale. Ed Mitchell, are you there?
About the first zero.
Dr. Mitchell, can you hear us?
On the 0171.
Well, we can see you, but we can't hear you.
In front of 171.
Hello? Well, we'll try to get hold of him later, so we'll have to leave that for a moment. We were going to be talking about possible government cover-ups, and
It's easy to prove, Michael.
easy to prove.
Yes, a group of us went after the NSA. We found that they had over 150 UFO documents. They refused to release them to us and to the federal court judge. We went after the CIA. Freedom of information, people think, is the magic tool that unlocks all the doors. It doesn't. Took me 5 years to get a released CIA UFO document on which you can read 8 words, not very exciting words. There's no question that they're withholding data. CIA, NSA, DIA.
They are withholding data, I admit it. The data that
about UFOs.
The data they are withholding is data that if they were to... We don't know what's there. You can't see through the
We know it's about UFOs.
We know it mentions UFOs. What the reason that is given for so much of that paper being blacked out is that to give it would actually reveal methods of intelligence, how they actually obtained that information.
20 years old?
It would give information about personnel who were in other countries who would be in danger if they were to explain that they would actually been spying for the other side all the time. Okay, that is all perfect.
These sightings are all happening in the southwest of the United States.
That's nonsense, Frank. Come on.
So if they're happening in other countries, surely they're not covering it up as well.
Why not?
Well, why should they?
Well, hang on,
Because of the technological implications. We're not dealing
Let's
with
ask Nick.
philosophy here. We're dealing with technology that any country that could duplicate
Let's
it
ask
would
Nick.
rule the
Nick
planet.
doesn't think that there's a cover-up in the UK.
Not in the UK, no. I think the real issue here is perhaps that we've got serious defence and national security issues which need to be looked at more carefully. We've got structured craft, not just lights in the sky. They're seen on radar. They fly over military bases.
Can I interrupt you, gentlemen, because I think we now have our link with America.
Americans
So, Ed Mitchell, are you hearing me now?
Yes, I am, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for
evening.
joining us. We're talking about government cover-ups. Do you think there's been one in the States, your own experience then?
Well, I can't come from my own experience. I can only look at the evidence and tell you what it is.
Do you think the government... Sorry.
There's 2 sources of evidence, and that's from people within government who have been involved in these areas, and they say yes. Then there's also the fact that official pronouncements in the press and, well, in the media, for 30 years have said they're not involved in the UFO business, but secret documentation obtained under Freedom of Information Act and from other sources deny that or show that that's simply not true. So, yes, there is a cover-up. Now, how far back it goes, it probably goes back 50 years or more.
Can I ask you, in your own opinion, is your government using ET technology?
I'm not sure they are knowingly. I have a theory that a lot of what we're seeing today is not under legitimate government control at all, but it is indeed likely using ET technology that it's no longer under constitutional control.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being with us. And good night to Ed Mitchell. There is just enough time for you to get your telephone votes in before the lines close. Having heard what you have for the past 90 minutes or so, do you believe the evidence supports the argument that aliens have already visited Earth? 0891 980 111 if you believe that is the case. 0891 980 222 if you don't. So, an upsum, as we say in the trade, a quick word from each of you. Have you changed your opinions in any whit tonight?
No, I'm convinced there are no good arguments against the reality of flying saucers and a cosmic Watergate.
Tim?
I find myself agreeing with some of the opinions of the skeptics, but I'm still convinced, no doubt at all, that extraterrestrials are here.
Nick Pope?
I've seen evidence of a technology, craft that do things we can't do in terms of speed and manoeuvrability.
Professor Frank Close.
Not a single piece of evidence that requires aliens. Many interesting things, but not aliens.
David Hughes?
Ufology is just a hardware-free zone, and I'm just surprised that aliens are that tidy. We aren't when we explore our planets. We litter them with junk.
Chris French.
That's it. I mean, basically what we're down to is either hearsay, it's very dubious sources. We've never actually got the hard physical evidence that would actually prove it. And once that's there, we'll accept it.
Why are we all so desperate that this should be true? And you're not, of course, but the general public wants this to happen. Is it because of the millennium? Are we replacing religion? What is it all about?
No, we're just calling it how we see it. If we see evidence of a technology that goes beyond the level of our own, then we're simply doing our best to report it and to push it into the public domain, and we'll let the people decide.
Some of us have, after all, been aware of 5,000 physical trace cases from 65 countries. We're aware of the 5 large-scale scientific studies that the skeptics never talk about. There's a vast amount more information that has been shown tonight.
I've referred to one of those studies tonight, Stanton, your favourite, the Project Blue Book Report 14. That's what I was talking about earlier with respect to Hynek's analysis.
David?
I mean, the cases just don't stand out.
Yes, they do.
Would you like a final word, David, on this? On your side?
Well, I agree with you that there must be life out there in the universe.
Not the question.
What I do not agree is that it has been here, because we have not found serious evidence of it on Earth.
After 50 years.
And cover-up is the easiest excuse for lack of evidence there is.
Thank you
but where
very
is the
much.
crashed saucer? Why not
Uncle
bring
Sam
it along?
has
Where
a
is the
cleaning
crash saucer? We haven't answered
technology.
that one. We have had over 100,000 calls this evening, and 92% of those who phoned in actually believe that aliens have already landed on Earth. Perhaps skeptics don't watch programs like this. So we leave you with the skeptics and the alien believers as divided as ever, but I would like to thank all our guests for taking part in the program and for presenting their arguments with so much conviction. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sure they are right. Whatever happens, I am insured for $10 million if I am abducted. I got this in America in one of our programs. The trouble is the claim form has to be signed by an alien. So, thank you for being with us. It was fun. Part of it was serious, but it's all over. Good night.
I just thought it was my imagination. Yeah. I saw 2, so it's not. There's 2 of them. There's another one. What are they? Some sort of light flickering in here.